Obi-Wan.
Not teach me well. So very recently, the Obi-Wan Kenobi series has finally dropped. Everything about the series is on full display for everybody to watch, and to quote the great Obi-Wan Kenobi...
Hello there.
No, not that.
I will do what I must.
That. So I think it was probably about 5 years ago. I might be exaggerating, maybe it was a bit shorter, but it was a while ago. Obi-Wan Kenobi, Ewan McGregor, stood on stage with Kathleen Kennedy and was like, I'm coming back as Obi-Wan Kenobi. And everybody, myself included, were like, what the frickety frack? So those of us who grew up with the prequels, like myself, were like, what? We were so excited that Ewan McGregor himself, Obi-Wan Kenobi himself, was coming back as Obi-Wan Kenobi. It was crazy to think about. It was like, what? What could they possibly do? What could they bring to this that hadn't been done before? What could be done within the 10, 20 years between Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope that they hadn't done before? And as it turns out, fucking nothing. So let me just break down the plot of this show for you. There isn't one. This show is the most aimless and pointless show that I have seen in a while. At first, when the first episode aired, well, the first 2 episodes aired, actually. The first 2 episodes came out 2 days after it was originally meant to come out. I think it was a day after, one of them. 2 or whatever days that it was meant to come out. They released the first 2 episodes. And the first episode that were released, I was like, cool. Nice slow episode, reintroducing the characters, kind of a little bit, but whatever. But then the second episode dropped, and I was a little bit more skeptical, but I still enjoyed it for the most part. I had enjoyed the show up until that point, but I was concerned because there were moments where I was like, what? One moment in particular that really showcased that particular point is that scene that everybody was hyped about, that everybody had seen in the trailers. It was like,
when the time comes, he must be trained.
When he says that sounds cool and everything, but the scene beforehand had a Jedi come up to him, a Padawan or whatever, a Jedi that he didn't know, came up to him and was like, Obi-Wan, please help me, train me. And Obi-Wan was like, get lost, man, like the fight's done. We're out of here. We're done, man. We lost. And then he tells the Jedi to go away, and then he does, and then dies, like, off screen. We never see him die. And then it's followed up by a scene of him being like, yeah, I've got to train Luke. But then that made me go, wait, you're training Luke for what? If you've let yourself go, and you're no longer attached to the Force, like you've literally cut yourself off from the Force, what do you expect to train Luke with? And as further reinforced as the series progresses, as the episodes continue to come out, it's like, wait, you're not really you're not really in contact with the Force. You have disconnected yourself. You've done the whole Cal Kestis thing where you just pieced out. You're done. You're out of it. So that leaves the question is like, wait, how are you going to train him if you are not the master anymore? You're as much of a Padawan as he would be. That was point 1 that made me go, what? And even more bafflingly, the end of the second episode made that even more apparent, because it was like, wait, if you didn't know that Anakin was still alive, Vader was still alive, what were you training Luke for? What were you gonna train him for? Were you just gonna train him in the hopes that he could just go up to Emperor Palpatine and be like, da bitch, boom?
I rather doubt it.
So the first 2 episodes started off very sloppy, but what really made the first 2 episodes sort of drag a little bit. I mean, I was not as, over the top about this as everybody else was. Everybody who was just going online and just destroying Moss Ingram for just being a part of this show, that's a little too far. But I was still skeptical about her character, because the series opened up, not with Obi-Wan, but with her. With Order 66 or whatever, like the clone troopers come in and they start blasting away. It was an alright scene, but then it wasn't Obi-Wan. Like, I was expecting Obi-Wan to be like, come with me, Padawan, and then run away. But then that wouldn't have made sense either, because he was not there during Order 66. He was on... I can't remember the planet. He was fighting General Grievous. Whatever. The part that made the first episode so weak for me, and by extension the rest of the series, were the Inquisitors, who never get resolved, by the way. Like, the fucking Team Rocket that were standing over there, I don't know, like, none of them get named. Like, I don't know either of their names other than Reva, Vader, Luke, Leia. Those are the only names that I know, and Owen. But other than that, nobody I can really think of. I don't even know the droid's name. I don't know the chick who died with the droid. But outside of that, everything, like, her character was probably the more efficient character that I was thinking of. In the scene where Obi-Wan is, like, talking to Owen, and Owen is just like, dude, stay away from Luke, get the fuck away from us. And then he goes out, and then the Inquisitors are standing there, and like, we are looking for a Jedi. And then I was like, okay, well, here we go. Like, here's a good scene of tension, I guess. And then Moss Ingram's character, like the third sister or whatever, is getting all up in Owen's face, and is like, I'm gonna slaughter you and everybody around here, including your family, if you don't give up the Jedi. And I was like, all right, there's the Inquisitor that we usually root for. I mean, Darth Vader would definitely approve of this sort of shit. But then the other guy, like, the other Inquisitor turns around and says, what are you doing? What are you doing? You're, like, undermining her authority in this scene, and therefore you are no longer intimidating to anyone in this area. You literally just destroyed her interrogation by being an idiot right now. You literally just destroyed that. You're an idiot. And that's cemented by their characterization as the series progresses, because Reva's character gets much more confusing as the series goes on, because first she kills the Grand Inquisitor, which, like, I get that he comes back, but why? And I've also seen Rebels. I know that he's meant to be alive, but, like, the way they explain it doesn't explain it. He gets impaled straight through the whole thing. Impaled. Qui-Gon Jinn impaled. Qui-Gon Jinn died. But this guy lived, and so did Reva somehow. Like, as the series progresses, it's revealed that Reva's character was one of the Padawans, or one of the children in Order 66, which we knew. And it's revealed that Vader stabbed her and then wandered off, expecting her to die from a stabbing. And I was like, that's very un-Vader-like. Like, what the fuck? Why would Vader just stab somebody? Like, at least he would have cut their head off. But, I don't know. And then, later on, Vader makes the same stupid decision and stabs her, leaves her to die, and then wanders off. It's like, what the fuck are you doing, man? Like, this chick literally just attempted to murder you, tried to kill you, and you're just like, yeah, fuck you, and then stabs her in the stomach and then just wanders off?
You have failed me for the last time, Admiral.
But the second episode then ends with the big reveal. Anakin is alive, Vader is coming for him, and it was a sweet shot, by the way. I do love that shot, how Ewan McGregor is just standing there in the frame, and he just says Anakin, and then just cuts to Vader, and I was like, whoa! That's the good shit that I came here for!
Anakin.
It doesn't stick with that. So essentially, the plot of this series, like, if you could call it that, it's not really a plot. Leia gets kidnapped. Bail Organa goes to Obi-Wan and is like, hey man, I can't get anybody on this. Would you mind going to find my daughter? So then Obi-Wan goes to this planet. And here's another stupid thing. Like Bail Organa is like, yeah, we have a tracking device, like, for where she is. We know where she is. We just need you, of all people, to go and get her. Like, I couldn't just, like, organize some sort of little task force to go and get her. I need you, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You specifically. So essentially the plot from there on is Obi-Wan and Leia just sort of surviving the Empire. And I'm like, that isn't exactly the best plot in the world. I mean, I guess, sure, but, like, what's driving this plot? I mean, the only thing that really drove the plot for me is the fact that Obi-Wan was dealing with PTSD, I guess. That's really what was driving it for me. I didn't really care about anything else. I didn't care about Leia. I didn't care about any of the other characters that were introduced. I certainly didn't care about Reva. Obi-Wan himself, his character was fine. I enjoyed his character. I enjoyed the arc he went on as a character. As he progressed, his character became more like Obi-Wan as we knew him, as we knew him from Revenge of the Sith and from A New Hope. Like, he progressed. It's like evolution, except backwards. Because we knew who he was. In fact, at the end of Revenge of the Sith, he was the exact same character as he was at the start of A New Hope and through the original trilogy, which therefore he was always going to be there, and therefore why did we need this series? We knew that he was going to end up there, and they could have really done some great stuff with his character if they had have really driven that home, the whole PTSD aspect. Like, that would have been an amazing thing, which I guess at the end of the 6th episode he's no longer dealing with, which, I mean, if anyone who's a Star Wars fan has ever gone on YouTube at any point in their life and seen Obi-Wan has PTSD, that is the best video that I have ever watched in my life. That video hammers home the point better than this show does. And that video was made by someone who was not paid by anyone. He was just a kid or someone who was, you know, who loved Star Wars. And the dude did a great job in that video. Whoever made that video, fucking props to you, dude. So then when the series actually finally introduces Darth Vader, I was hyped beyond hype. One of the best casting choices that they had revealed for this show was the fact that Hayden Christensen was coming back as Darth Vader. Me, as a prequel fan, I loved this. Mainly because everybody who is not a prequel fan and watched the prequels were always like, Hayden Christensen is really bad. And I'm sitting there being like, what are you talking about, dude? But then when they revealed this and they said that he was coming back, I was beyond happy. I was like, yes, the man finally gets to come back and prove the fact that he is great as Darth Vader. And he does, for the most part. Like, there are still stupid decisions that Vader does, like leaving Reva alive. But there are also other moments that are just baffling to me. Vader in this series loves to stand and stare. The man is a king at staring. When he shouldn't be staring, he should be acting, like doing something. The very first episode where Hayden Christensen technically comes back and like we see the whole reveal episode, the whole reveal scene where like he's getting the, you know, the outfit put on him like Revenge of the Sith style. It even uses some of the same sound effects, which are amazing to hear. But in this episode, not necessarily that scene, I just wanted to mention that scene because I love that scene. But in this episode, later on, when he is revealed, it's a really sweet scene. Like, he comes in and he's just proving a point to Obi-Wan. He's like, yeah, look what I am now. I'm amazing. Like, he's force pulling people out of a house, breaking the dude's son's neck, force pulling somebody along the ground, and then he's just being a menace. He's being Darth Vader, which was brilliant. And then, as the episode continued, Darth Vader still proving his point. He's like igniting his lightsaber and being like, yeah, I'm a badass, bitch. And then when they finally fight, Obi-Wan's sort of deflecting and because his PTSD is like exploding at this point. It's like, here's the guy I failed. Here's what, like, whoa, failure has just come at me in the form of Darth Vader. Of course I'm running for my fucking life. And he was running for his life, and Vader was just like coming at him from all angles, and then he does like the Empire Strikes Back thing where he turns off his sound effect, he's hiding behind a corner, and then the dialogue between the two was stellar, I believe. Like, Obi-Wan was like, what have you become? And Vader was like, I am what you made me. You made this, motherfucker. Which then kind of doesn't make sense given what he says later in episode 6. Anyhow, but this episode was really cool. Obi-Wan was running for his life, and Vader was just coming at him like it was like a horror movie villain. Like, we've all seen those movies, like Jason Voorhees, Michael Myers, Freddy Krueger. They're all like constantly coming at you. Like Michael Myers in the first movie is my favorite thing, my favorite pet peeve about that movie is that Michael Myers is just walking after everybody instead of just legging it. Every time I watch Halloween, the first Halloween, it's always hilarious watching Laurie Strode run across the street and then Michael Myers just walking out of the house coming at her. It's like, dude, run! But you know, it works to the horror aspect because no matter how far she runs, he's right there behind her, which is the horror aspect, which is what I'm talking about because Darth Vader felt like Michael Myers where no matter how far Obi-Wan ran, Darth Vader was right behind him. And that was great. And then he's just like Force holds him up in the air, which I didn't think that they could do, but apparently they can, like use the Force against each other. It's like, it kind of reminded me of a video game where like it kind of reminded me of Jedi Fallen Order. Like you're sitting there, you're fighting against the second sister, and then you just sort of Force hold her, jump around her, and try to cheap shot her behind. And it's really cool. And then Vader just like, I guess he like instinctively knew that there was like ignitable sand or whatever, and then just poured it on the ground, lit it ablaze, and then put Obi-Wan in it. And I was like, oof, alright, we're going for the whole revenge thing. Like, he really wants him to feel what he felt. And then, he, like, Force pushes him back, literally extinguishes the flame with the Force, and then, what do you call it? Like, chick from the Empire, who's not really a part of the Empire, reignites it. And then the robot and the chick go and grab Obi-Wan, and Vader is just staring. Like, it shows that he can see them, but he's just staring. He's just... It kind of made for an awkward scene. I was like, dude, do something. You literally just extinguished the flame with the Force yourself. Do that again. Grab the woman and the guy. Grab Obi-Wan. Do something. Or fuck it. Forget about the flame. Just Force pull them towards you. That would have been a lot more smart and consistent with Darth Vader because Darth Vader is considered one of the most powerful Force wielders of all time. And it is showcased very brilliantly later on in the series when it does one of those, you know, game moments, which was incredible. But it's like scenes like this, where it's like, what are you doing, man? Why are you doing this? And whatever. So they get away and they run off and Vader is just like, well, fuck. And then he just sort of wanders off. And I was like, okay, so like, why did you do that? And I thought at the time, like, maybe it was a plan, like, Vader was just like, okay, well, they got away, we'll get them later, or I was like, it was a part of the plan, like, I'm just constantly stalking him, or I'll constantly chase him, make him feel like I am a horror movie villain, because I'm coming for his ass. But they don't really do that, especially given the ending of the following episode, because the following of the fourth episode, like, Vader's holding up Reaver, and it was like, you had him in your grasp, what are you doing? You let him go. You're dead. And this is another moment where I was like, get fucked, Vader would not do that. Vader literally had Reaver by the Force, was chokeholding her. Everybody, including the most minute Star Wars fans, know that if Darth Vader is pissed at somebody, if somebody has failed Darth Vader, that person is going to die. I literally glossed over one of the most important facts. Reaver knows who Vader is. Reaver knows that Vader is Vader is Anakin. Anybody who's anybody knows that Vader is Anakin is dead within seconds. And it's even proven, or it's even shown later on in the show, at the end of episode 5, that he knew that the whole time. Why did you let her live? Why did you even include her in the Inquisitorial Squad from Harry Potter? What are you doing, man? Like, what are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing, man? So then, during episode 4, like, at the beginning of episode 4, it really quickly glosses over the fact that Obi-Wan is like, holy shit, Vader was like Anakin, like whatever. It just really glosses over the fact, and it just sort of showcases like some like flashbacks from the prequel trilogy, and it sort of shows like flashbacks from a previous episode. And I was like, okay, cool. And then he gets out of the BAFTA tank, and then he just turns around and says to chick from the Empire, and it was like, where's Leia? He didn't even mention, like, nothing. None of that fazed him at all. He was just like, where's Leia? And it's like, what are you doing? Like, your former Padawan, the biggest regret and failure of your life, literally just burned you alive, and your first thought is, where is Leia? Wouldn't your first thought be, where the fuck is Vader? Like, is Vader still here or something like that? Like, if you're really playing up the fact that he's afraid and that he has PTSD, a scene like that would have gone a long way to showcasing that. Just him reveling in the fact that he was struggling with this would have really done wonders for the show, but they glossed over it like it was nothing and then continued on to the next scene. And then he comes up with the most baffling plan that I think I've ever heard in my life, where he's like, okay, Leia's like, I don't know what the place is called. It's the most ridiculous name I think I've heard, and I can't even remember what it's called. But the Inquisitorial Squad base, we'll call it that. And he's like, Leia is there, so's the Inquisitors, Vader is nearby, obviously we need to go and get her. Like, I get why he needs to get her, it's like, well, it's Leia, it's also Vader's daughter, we need to, like, you know, out of his grasp. But it just didn't seem like this wisest plan. It was like, they know you're coming, they know you're going. Like, I guess that was the whole point of her kidnapping Leia, even though it doesn't explain why she kidnapped Leia in the first place, for a second time, I might add, for a second time. It was just baffling to me. And then it literally recreates here's something that I have a problem with in this show, is the fact that it recreates scenes from previous or established lore or established shows that we love, and is like, why? You can't stand on your own 2 feet, so you have to copy everybody else's. Two scenes, or like one scene and one episode that really showcase this. The 4th episode is the entire last mission of Fallen Order. It is the entire last mission. The only thing that doesn't happen is them facing off against Vader at the end of the episode. That's all. That's it. Actually, this whole episode, this whole series is basically just a retelling of Fallen Order. Jedi who hasn't been connected to the Force in a long time. MacGuffin that the entire series is based around. We'll call it Leia or Holocron or whatever the fuck you want to call it. This particular item gets kidnapped and taken to the Inquisitorial base. This particular Jedi goes on a heroic quest to go and get the MacGuffin of the show. They find the MacGuffin and also find the Inquisitors in the base, have a face-off with the Inquisitors, and then get the fuck out of there. It is the entirety of the last mission. The only thing that doesn't happen is them facing off with Vader. That is it. It was actually one of the stupidest episodes. It was the shortest episode too. It was 30 minutes long. It was the most filler of filler episodes that the entire series could have gone for. In fact, the first 2 episodes were just like that, now seeing the rest. But then it gets to episode 5, which I think is probably the best of the bunch, where the Inquisitors and Vader have followed Obi-Wan to Jabin, I think it was called, and then they were like, all right, let's like hold them in there and we'll take them down all on their own. And I was like, okay, cool plan. Like they have them trapped. They literally have them in a box. All you have to do is pick them off one by one. It's a cool episode, but it sort of like just sort of detracts from itself really fucking quickly, because the first thing that they do is they sort of line up outside after they've locked them in, and Reaver is standing there and it's like, fire, and they're firing on the thing, and then Obi-Wan just turns around and says, all right, tell the Inquisitor I need to stop, and I was that we need to talk. And I was like, who's going to send that message? Like, do you think one of them is just going to like send a voicemail or something, or open a latch and be like, please stop, we need to talk? Who's going to do that? Like, what do you think he's going to do? And somehow the message gets out, and it's like, well, okay, I guess the message got to her. Did somebody send a text? I guess. I just don't know how they got that message out. It was so strange. And then they go to the door, and they have a conversation, and that's when it's revealed that she was one of the Padawans. Yeah, big shock. We knew that she was a Padawan. It showed in the first episode. Like, we weren't that surprised. We weren't that on edge about it. And everybody... and I guess the scene was meant to reveal that she knew Anakin because of that. And I was like, yeah, we kind of figured that, because if she knows Anakin, then she knows Order 66. So, yeah, sure, but the real question is, how does she know that Anakin is Vader? There's the distinction. Anakin Skywalker may have betrayed the Republic and betrayed the Jedi and just slaughtered them all, but at no point did anybody just turn around and say, that's Darth Vader, because that is a very different thing. Because when, later on, I feel, I think it was like, I haven't read the comic, but I know it's a thing where Emperor Palpatine literally announces to the galaxy or to his troops or whatever, and it was like, yeah, this is Darth Vader, you're going to be taking orders from this guy. And everybody's like, who the fuck is that? That is like the point of that. Nobody would know that that Darth Vader is Anakin because he is in a suit. He's in a suit that literally has a breathing effect. He needs that suit. So how do you make the leap that Anakin Skywalker slaughters Jedi to he's Darth Vader? How do you make that? Like, you'd have to, I mean, I guess she might have heard one of the troopers being like, Lord Vader, she's over here! But never shows that. Like, that would have at least explained it, I guess, because it'd be like, wait, Lord Vader, does that mean Darth Vader? Darth Vader would be Anakin oh my god, that's Anakin! Like, that would have been at least a little bit more plausible. But then in this scene between the two of them, Obi-Wan is like, Obi-Wan like has his hand to the door and is like, and figures all of that out, and then she's like, yeah, fuck you, and then she slices open the door with the lightsaber, and I was like, why didn't you do that from the start? All the stormtroopers are like blasting away at all the rebels, and they miss every shot. Every shot! There is an army of stormtroopers standing there, and they're like blasting away at these guys in a small corridor, I will say. And the only shots that are making it is Obi-Wan like deflecting the things, and it just so happens to be on like shields or whatever on the walls. I was literally baffled because I was like, okay, I know stormtroopers are lame. They have their horrible aim, but not that terrible. Literally not that terrible. They have had experience somewhere, I would imagine, or is this their first fight? After they have this scene and the chick from the Empire dies and the robot, Obi-Wan is like, alright, I'm gonna hand myself over to them to buy us some time to open the door so that we can get out of here. I was like, okay, whatever. And then he goes out there, he gets cuffed, he gets brought before Reva, and Reva is like, tell Lord Vader that we have Obi-Wan Kenobi. And then Obi-Wan literally says, in front of stormtroopers, I will add. This is the funniest thing about this moment, is that he's standing in front of stormtroopers. He's standing in front of the Empire's troops and being like, I'm not bringing Vader to me, or you're not bringing Vader to me. I'm bringing him to you. And then he turns around and says, this will be your chance at him. And I'm literally just imagining the stormtroopers just standing there with their armor, just with their guns, and being like, you do know we're standing here, right? I mean, I feel like we should like report to Lord Vader about like potential treason. I feel like he's like I feel like you're gonna be a treason. No. Lord Vader, like, are you there? I feel like Reva is like trying to be treasonous. Like she's conveying to Obi-Wan in front of us that she wants to kill you. Oh shit, she's gonna kill us! Oh. I was literally like, why didn't the stormtrooper... Oh, like, she does realize the stormtroopers are standing there, right? They are standing there, feet away from you. And you're talking about killing Darth Vader. They might have just been like, yeah, you're not gonna kill Darth Vader. Like, fucking hell. Like, Darth Vader, good luck to you. Really? In front of the troopers? They could have blown the whistle on you at any point. I mean, I know it's revealed minutes later that Vader had this whole plan to like, you know, betray her or whatever, or like was using her, and the Grand Inquisitor walks in and is like, hello there. I was actually watching it with a friend of mine, and the both of us thought the same thing. I was like, wouldn't they just be like, what the fuck? It's like, it was just baffling. It was so baffling to me. So then, after they have kidnapped Obi-Wan and then brought him back into the room or whatever, like they took him back into the room. It's like, wouldn't you just keep him in the field and then just have Vader walk up and then have his way with him, like right there and then? That sounds so wrong. But like, wouldn't you expect that? Wouldn't it be more obvious that something is up when you take him back into the area and then knock him the fuck out? Like, if I was Darth Vader and I'd seen that, I'd be like, the bitch is setting me up. and then turns around and just tries to kill her. Like, that would have made more sense, but no, he walks in and does the A New Hope thing, where he just sort of looks at the dead bodies and is like,
Kenobi. Kenobi!
that would have been cool. Then he continues to walk in, and this is the best scene in the entire series. Like, hands down, if everything was to be cut out of this series, and this was the only thing that stayed, I would have been fucking happy. Lord Vader, Darth Vader, walks in and sees the ship glide away. He doesn't even flinch. He just grabs the thing out of the air with the Force and then just pulls it down and then just starts ripping the side out of it. And then the stupidest thing happens where apparently there was a second ship and the second ship flies away. And he doesn't catch that one either. It's like, wait. If you can catch this one, why didn't you catch that one? You literally ripped the side out of this one. Why wouldn't you do the same to that one? It was probably the stupidest moment in the episode. And then Reva comes up like an idiot and just sort of does like the whole sneaky thing, like the thief sort of thing, and then ignites the lightsaber and then swings. I literally sat there and I was like, why wouldn't you just sort of hold it up against his back, like right behind him, and then try to ignite it? Like, yeah, he would have stopped you because it's Darth Vader. He's not going to fall for that shit. But it would have at least made more sense, especially if you're screaming. Ah! Is an indication that you're going to hit them. It's like Ghost of Tsushima, where the guys with the bows and arrows are just like, hey! and then they fire. It's like, oh, okay, they're going to fire, so I can dodge out of the way. Like, that's the whole reason that mechanic is in the game. So you, the audience, the character playing the guy playing the character, knows that they're about to shoot so that you can dodge out of the way. That's the whole reason it's in that game. I mean, I don't know if it's accurate. It might be. Like, I don't know anything about Mongol, like, strategies. But that is pretty much very obvious that somebody's about to shoot the bloody arrow. Or ignite their lightsaber. So then Vader knows that she's going to ignite the lightsaber and then turns around and is like, he was wise to use you against me. And I was like, why? Why was he wise? Like, I know that you are just so like, narrow-sighted, tunnel vision on Obi-Wan that you just really want to get him. But wise? Cold-blooded would be the thing that I would say, because the dude bailed. Like, the implication that I thought was, like, he was going to be like, I can help you fight him. And he would just, he would come down, or like Reva would go to snap at him, or like try to stab him, and then Obi-Wan would just sort of yeet at him, and they would like tag team him or something. Like, that would have been cool. But no, he just bailed. It was really cold-blooded. I was like, bruh, dude just left her to die. And then in the next episode, it's never addressed. Like, okay, like, I guess you could just leave somebody to die and it'll all be fine. Okay. So strange. And then, as I said before, the stupidest thing happens where Vader, like, beats her in a fight. The fight was really sweet because he was just dodging the whole thing. He was just like, yeah, you're nothing to me, sweetheart. And he was like dodging out of the way, using the Force against her. He even takes her lightsaber, snaps it in half, and throws her one piece. I was like, dude's like a lion playing with an antelope. He's like, I'm gonna get you, bitch. And there ain't nothing you can do about it. I like that moment. It was really cool. And then it's followed up by a stupid moment where he stabs her and leaves her to die. The Inquisitor comes out of nowhere and is like, hello there. And it's like, how is he alive and how is she alive? Because in this very scene, it's revealed that she got stabbed and lived. I was like, why? How? Qui-Gon Jinn had the same shit and he died. Oh. But the best part about this scene, other than Vader, like, literally just force pulling a ship out of the sky like they did in The Rise of Skywalker, but I'm pretty sure it's canon, and it did happen in Force Unleashed, which is not canon, I guess, but I consider it canonical. It's really cool. Where Starkiller just looks at a Star Destroyer in space, or, like, coming at him, and he's just like, nope! And then he drops it. Which was awesome. I loved that. But the coolest thing about this episode was, it was a scene that reminded me of Ghost of Tsushima, where Anakin and Obi-Wan, like prequel Anakin and Obi-Wan, are in this sort of ceremonial sort of place, or like the like sparring match thing, and it's just Master and Padawan just sort of, you know, teaching. And it plays through the episode, and it was really cool to see because it was like it like translated to present moment where it's like where Anakin has Obi-Wan, he's just smacking at him, and he's like, "You're done, stop, you're finished." And it cuts back to Obi-Wan being like, "I feel like I'm done here." But then it plays out where Obi-Wan turns around and says to Anakin, and it's like, your need to prove yourself is the very reason that you will fail. And if you don't overcome that, you will always be the learner. And then it cuts back to present day where Obi-Wan's ship just flies away and Vader's just staring off at it and just being like, motherfucker. But then the final episode comes along where Reva, for some unknown reason, Reva's character in episode 6 cut it out completely, would change nothing about the episode. It literally did nothing. In this episode, Reva is like trying to kill Luke Skywalker for no apparent reason, and then she backs out of it and was like, "I'm sorry," and then everyone's like, "Cool, I don't care." I don't even know how she got there. Like, how the fuck did she get there? It literally shows Obi-Wan still in the ship, flying away from Vader and his troops. So, what ship did she grab? How did she get there? A very confusing scene. Like it opens with her there, and I was like, how did you get here? Like, did you steal a ship? There didn't seem to be any there. Like, not one that was flyable anyway. Vader did, like, rip it apart. Literally. How did you get here? That entire sequence could have been cut out of the episode, and it would have changed nothing. Then, Obi-Wan and the rebels are, like, flying away from Vader, and they're getting attacked, the hyperdrive's down, and then Obi-Wan's like, alright, I'm gonna go face him because it's the only thing that's gonna save anybody here. Like, I go face him or we all die. And I was like, okay, sure. But then it, like, cuts back to later where it's like, dude, if you go and face him now, like, we could still, like, just fix the ship. Like, we could probably fix the ship. We could still do it. Like, come on. Don't go and face him. And then he's like, no, I want to go and face him. And I was like, okay, so the dude wants to do what? Like, you want to kill him? Maybe, but it didn't really seem like it. It kind of seemed like he just was trying to buy time. If that was the case, then I guess, you know what I mean, it could have been like he wanted to face his fear, maybe. I don't know why he went to face it. Like, he probably could have gotten out of that. Anyhow, he gets down to the ship, and it shows Lola on the ship. And I honestly thought that the droid was going to play into the scene or into the sequence with Vader, like BD-1 in Fallen Order, where BD-1 just sort of shocks him, and Vader's like, "Argh!" And then he grabs it, and everybody does. My favorite scene in that entire game. Literally, because of that meme. I saw that somewhere and I was like, that is perfect. It literally plays nothing into the rest of the sequence. Like, if that droid was never shown to be there, it wouldn't have changed anything. I guess it showcases that Leia was like, here, have my droid, and like, I'm thinking of you, like, be safe. It's like going away present, I guess, or death present. The fight happens, and Vader and Obi-Wan, they're going back and forth, they're fighting, and it was kind of a weird fight. Like, this was described as the rematch of rematches, the rematch of the century, I believe it was described as, and it's really not that brilliant. I mean, it's a good sequence, alright, I mean, I'll give them that. I enjoyed the fight, but I don't know, the fight on Mustafar was much, much better. Like, it got better, the music was epic. It didn't hit me as much as the Revenge of the Sith fight sequence did, and certainly not as much as the A New Hope sequence did, especially with the knowledge of the prequels. Like, the prequels sort of make that scene better, but then this scene sort of, I don't know, it's very superfluous. It really doesn't add anything, doesn't change anything. It doesn't do anything for the series or for the overall story. Like, it doesn't change anything. But then the sequence ends with Obi-Wan just sort of slashing off his helmet and then being like, Anakin! And then Anakin just turns around and says,
Anakin Skywalker was weak. I destroyed him.
Did he say that? I feel like he said that somewhere.
I destroyed him.
No, I haven't got it.
Anakin Skywalker was weak. I destroyed him.
this was what I was wanting from the series, but they really didn't do as much with it as they could have. It was nothing. Like, it was literally nothing. If you are a prequel fan like I am, then the most you wanted from this series, you probably wanted them to fight. Like, I wanted them to fight for sure, but I wanted them to talk on a substantial level, have a conversation about each other. Like, here's where I am. This is what you did to me. And Obi-Wan could be like, you know what? I didn't do that to you as much as you did that to yourself. You did this to yourself, you fool. And then I also wanted them to sort of add context to the scene in Return of the Jedi where Vader is like,
come with me.
Obi-Wan once thought as you do.
the scene in Revenge of the Sith doesn't really illustrate that, because he's like, you have become the very thing you swore to destroy. And if you have become one of the Sith, then I will do what I must. And he just ignites his lightsaber and they just hack and slash at each other. I mean, I guess they kind of do have a little bit of dialogue in that fight where he's like, I have failed you. And then Anakin's like, fuck you. And then it's like, well, okay. Boom. It really doesn't showcase that scene very much. I was hoping that that was what they were going for in this scene, or in this series, where it's like, dude, there is still good in you. Padme believed in you. I believe in you. Come on, let's get out of here. And then Vader can just be like, get fucked. And then he just ignites his lightsaber and just starts hacking and slashing at him. I would argue that the dialogue in this scene makes this series superfluous because of the dialogue. Because when Vader gets off of his ship and he's like, have you come to destroy me? And then Vader is like, and then Obi-Wan turns around and says, I will do what I must. I was like, wow, that's exactly what he said last time. And I was like, well, why didn't we just leave it where he said it last time? Like, he could have just said it there and that could have been that. But now I guess he said it here. But then in the scene where he like slashes off his mask and turns around and says, I'm sorry, Anakin, he starts tearing up. I love Ewan McGregor. Ewan McGregor is amazing, and he will always be my favorite Obi-Wan. I love Alec Guinness, but Ewan McGregor made Obi-Wan his own. And that is what I wanted from this series, and that's kind of what I got. I didn't get as much as I did in the prequels, but it's there. It's still there, and you still see the Alec Guinness flavor, like especially with how he says hello there. He doesn't say it in the whole me-malicious way. He says it in the Alec Guinness way, which is incredible. I liked how he said it. It was just like, hello there, instead of hello there. But then in the scene where he's like saying, I'm sorry, and he's all tearing up, and then he basically says, and then Vader basically says the exact same thing that he said in Rebels, where he's like, Anakin Skywalker was weak. I destroyed him. He's dead now. Like, I'm Vader. Like, fuck Anakin Skywalker. And I mean, it's an okay dialogue, but it's not what I was hoping for, and it's definitely not anything new. It's everything that we've already known. Like, we've seen it before. We've even seen it done better before. It's like this scene really added nothing to it. So it didn't make it as impactful as some of the other scenes that it's literally stealing from. And then, the biggest travesty of this show that they ever could have done, I was hoping for one of the best moments in the history of this. Everybody who is a prequel fan loves Qui-Gon Jinn. We all love Liam Neeson as Qui-Gon Jinn. And I was hoping that before the fight with Vader that he's sort of meditating and he's just sort of reflecting, and he's like, and then like Liam Neeson turns up and he's like, Obi-Wan. And they have like a decent talk. They have a decent chat. It's like, yeah, you failed, but that's the whole part of learning, or something like that. Like, they could have just recreated the scene from The Last Jedi, where Yoda turns up and he's like, failure is what teaches us. Just being like, nobody's perfect. We're all fallible creatures. We learn from failure. Failure is how we learn. And Obi-Wan could have taken that in and then utilized that in the fight with Vader and been like, hey man, I failed. And I'm really sorry. But you did fail yourself. Like, every choice that you have done, every choice that you made yourself. I didn't force those choices on you. You went with the choices that you have done. You let yourself be manipulated. You let yourself get fucked over by Palpatine. I could have taught you better. Sure, whatever. But the fact that they didn't do that, and the only two cameos in the show, well, three, I guess, because of Owen or whatever, but I wouldn't call that a cameo. Like, that was necessary. Like, they didn't have to put in the present. Like, they didn't have to put in Palpatine. They brought Palpatine back, which was really cool. Like, it was really cool that they had Ian McDiarmid reprise his role again as Palpatine. And it was like, okay, Palpatine and Anakin are together again. And then Liam Neeson comes back and he's like, oh, there you are. And Obi-Wan's like, took you long enough, or the other way around, whatever. And that's it. That's it. That's where they leave the show. I was like, what? You had so many better opportunities to use that, and you did nothing? You only did How did you think that would appease fans? That is just as stupid as making Luke Skywalker the old motherfucker in The Last Jedi and turning him into a douchebag, essentially, instead of the biggest optimist in the entire galaxy. Why did you do that? And the rumors that you hear behind the scenes where they had so much more of John Williams' music, even more cameos as well, I was like, okay, that would have been cool. But then you realize who's actually creating the show, and you realize that Kathleen Kennedy doesn't like Star Wars, so she just cut it all out. She cut out John Williams' theme, the only theme that I can think of, that I can really think of, or two scenes, actually, three, actually. One was basically the trailer, because the trailer has Battle of the Heroes and Duel of the Fates. It starts off with Duel of the Fates and then ends with Battle of the Heroes. It was a sweet trailer because of that music. That music elevated it. And then in this series, the only scene that actually has John Williams' music is the scene with Palpatine where he's like, you really need to let go of your past, you douche. And then Vader is like, I only serve you, master. And then it starts playing the Imperial March. It's like, dun, 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 dun. And I was like, that elevated the scene simply because of that music. That scene could have been stupid. I mean, that scene was fine as it was, but that music made it epic. That music made it better. The fans have such a connection to the music as well as the characters that the music will elevate your show. Even if it's a stupid show like this. What's the one thing that people remember about the sequel trilogy? The music. Everybody remembers the music. The music is amazing because John Williams is an incredible composer. And you cutting out his stuff makes it hurt. It really does. And then the second scene where he has his music is like in the last scene with Leia, where it plays like Luke's theme. It's like, okay, cool, whatever. It doesn't add too much about the scene. It just, whatever. Like, it was just a missed opportunity. Everything about this show was a missed opportunity. But in all honesty, it does have good moments. It does have good stuff, followed by shit, but it does have good stuff. Like Vader pulling out a ship from the sky. That was incredible. Obi-Wan versus Vader. Obi-Wan versus Anakin. That shit was great. Some of this stuff was really cool, especially some of the stuff that they do with Obi-Wan. Especially the whole PTSD aspect, which is what people theorize that he does have, and this show does show that, but it doesn't show it as well as the video that I mentioned. If you haven't seen that video, go and watch that video. I'll leave a link in the description. It's a great video. But then you also hear the rumors around Kathleen Kennedy basically being escorted out of this show to be replaced by Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni, which is an incredible choice because Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni are the ones that have really elevated Star Wars in recent years. Like, everybody loves Star Wars now, or The Mandalorian now, because those two are what created it, and those two are what brought everybody back. And that's how you're meant to bring everybody back, with love and passion for this show. So in all honesty, I think this show is going to get a second season because they've been hinting at that for ages or whatever. And I hope that that's the case. And I hope Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau really do elevate this show. But we'll see, I guess. It was disappointing. It really was, especially for people like me who love the prequels. So if you're going to do this again, please do it better.